Today we are covering designing Microsoft Azure infrastructure solutions. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Question is, you have to design a data engineering solution for your company. The company currently has an Azure subscription. They also have application data hosted in a database on a Microsoft SQL server hosted in their on-premises data center server. They want to implement the following requirements: transfer transactional data from the on-premises SQL server onto a data warehouse in Azure. Data needs to be transferred every day in the night as a scheduled job. A managed Spark cluster needs to be in place for data engineers to perform analysis on the data stored in the SQL data warehouse. Here the data engineers should have the ability to develop notebooks in Scale, R and Python. They also need to have a data lake store in place for the ingestion of data from multiple data sources. Which of the following would be the use for hosting the data warehouse in Azure? Option A, Azure Data Factory. Option B, Azure Databricks. Option C, Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage accounts. Option D, Azure Synapse Analytics. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, you have an Azure subscription. The subscription contains an app that is hosted in the East US, Central Europe, and East Asia regions. You need to recommend a data tier solution for the app. The solution must meet the following requirements: support multiple consistency levels, be able to store at least 1 TB of data, be able to perform read and write operations in the Azure region that is local to the app instance. What should you include in the recommendation? Option A, an Azure Cosmos DB database. Option B, a Microsoft SQL Server always on availability group on Azure virtual machines. Option C, an Azure SQL database in an elastic pool. Option D, Azure Table Storage that uses Geo-redundant storage (GRS) replication. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, you have an application named App1. App1 generates log files that must be archived for 5 years. The log files must be readable by App1 but must not be modified. Which storage solution should you recommend for archiving? Option A, ingest the log files into an Azure Log Analytics workspace. Option B, use an Azure Blob Storage account and a time-based retention policy. Option C, use an Azure Blob Storage account configured to use the Archive Access tier. Option D, use an Azure file share that has access control enabled. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, the developers at your company are building a containerized Python Django app. You need to recommend platform to host the app. The solution must meet the following requirements: support auto-scaling, support continuous deployment from an Azure Container Registry, provide built-in functionality to authenticate app users by using Azure Active Directory Azure AD. Which platform should you include in the recommendation? Option A, Azure Container Instances. Option B, an Azure App Service instance that uses containers. Option C, Azure Kubernetes Service AKS. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, your network contains an on-premises Active Directory forest. You discover that when users change jobs within your company, the membership of the user groups are not being updated. As a result, the users can access resources that are no longer relevant to their job. You plan to integrate Active Directory and Azure Active Directory Azure AD by using Azure AD Connect. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that group owners are emailed monthly about the group membership they manage. What should you include in the recommendation? Option A. Conditional access policies. Option B. Tenant restrictions. Option C. Azure AD access reviews. Option D. Azure AD identity protection. Correct answer is option C.